So my understanding, we were finishing up with Managing Director's office? Okay, well, MDO, please come on back up. Oh, OHS? Okay, MDO, y'all were going in between two of them? Just OHS? Okay. Any more questions or comments for OHS? Any more questions? Any other members have questions for OHS? Okay. All right. At this point in time, got you on double duty, Adam. Mr. Thiel, Managing Director's office.
No, I'm not by myself. She's got my back, clearly.
The chair recognizes Councilmember Kendra Brooks.
Oh, that was quick. Thank you, Council President. All right.
Madam Brooks, Minority Leader, can you just speak into the microphone,
Yes,
please?
let me bring it closer. Thank you. All righty. So I had my question, first question was about, still about the nursing home, the old nursing home. So the cost for renovating the old nursing home were anticipated to be more than $6.6 million for a new heating and generator, among other issues. So how much did the administration spend for that particular center, do you know?
Councilmember, I'm not sure which renovation you're referring
Well,
to.
the renovation for, what's the name for it? Hold on, 2100 Gerard. I don't know the name that you guys are calling it.
The building where you're just expanding the additional 90 beds.
Philly
right off
Home
Gerard
at Gerard.
Understood. My question, Councilmember, is I don't know the renovation that you are referring, the scope of the renovation to which you are referring.
So when the building, originally when the building was transitioned to something else, they were saying that it needed $6.6 million for all of these, the new heating and the generator. And I was wondering, were those issues resolved at this facility?
Councilmember, we're not doing that full scope renovation. We are essentially doing right now one floor at a time. Okay. So we can certainly get you the number that we've spent as we are moving forward.
Okay, so, you know, a part of the mayor's proposed budget for FY25 included $100 million in capital spending for Triage Wellness Center funding. Is that the money that was used or planned to be used for this renovation or other renovations for any of the other locations that will be sprouting up around the city?
Councilmember, no, that money is not available. Assuming that City Council approves that $100 million in capital, it will not be available until after July 1st. As part of when the FY25 budget. So we are not spending the $100 million because it does not exist yet. So we are spending money that was in our mid-year transfer request to be able to do, again, smaller renovations so we can get floors and beds in service now, not that full scope renovation that you're talking about.
So earlier I did ask about other existing facilities and where do we intend on them popping up. So the money that was allocated will also go to the renovation of those facilities as well?
Councilmember, those aren't necessarily renovations. We do have other city-owned facilities that we are renovating, and most of the existing facilities are actually operated by other providers who they have their own not-for-profits and businesses, and we essentially pay them. We don't know how they address their capital. You know, we don't get into their business except to the extent that we tell them we have a requirement. They tell us what it would cost to meet that requirement, and we use different, not capital money, Class $200 to pay for that.
And they will serve as the same capacity as this Philly Home at Gerard? They will have the same operations and support services as you described at?
Councilmember, not necessarily the same. You know, a lot of these facilities offer a different scope of services. What we are trying to do is to raise the standard of care in all of these existing facilities, particularly the ones that are city operated. like Philly Home at Girard, so we can provide more services, again, so we don't have to move people around. Once you have folks in, you want to try to keep them in the care continuum as long as possible without losing them. So that's really why we're trying to expand services in existing facilities first, while we develop the plan for comprehensive wellness centers that will be funded by that $100 million capital investment in the mayor's proposed budget.
Okay, so my next question is like the process. So if folks are being voluntarily deciding to go to the Girard facility or wherever else, are they also being transitioned somewhere else if they have addictions issues for their 28 stay? Or are these facilities being used as part of the 28 days facility for rehab?
Council member, it really literally depends on the individual participant or patient. So we are trying to put them into the place that they need. They are all different. They have different levels of care that they need. So if for instance, what are low barrier shelter beds at Philly Home at Girard, that's not suitable necessarily for somebody who needs intensive wound care. We can provide preliminary wound care now. If folks need intensive wound care, then we get them to the appropriate medical facility. Similarly, if somebody requires this type of medication-assisted treatment versus that type, or they need it for a longer time than we can provide, we get them to the appropriate care. What we are trying to do is to build one system, connect all these different nodes of the system, and have a smaller number of facilities ultimately where we can provide holistic care. That is going to take time to build that. And we know, given the urgency of the situation in our communities, and frankly, for the folks that are experiencing these issues, we don't have the time to essentially build out and develop this long-term plan, do multiple studies, and then build a facility. It still is going to take it. We are doing that, and at the same time, we are doing everything we can within existing resources to build out and expand the bed capacity that we have now, providing higher quality care and a broader range of services to the people who need it.
And I think, just to be clear, I'm not saying that I don't support these services. What I'm saying is, in order for me to support something, everything has been very vague and has not been transparent. So every time we come and ask questions, it's questions about process, procedure, or plan, who, what, how. So it's not to be contentious. It's like, in order for us to be an advocate for services, we need to know what they are. And, the reason I'm asking is because you said it wasn't happening, then it did happen, then it already happened, and it was in someone's district. They didn't have a say. No one knew. We get phone calls because it was on the news first, and then you have us in council looking crazy because we said just now that it wasn't happening. So I'm just trying to get clarity as to if we're going to be partners in this as the city, whether it's administration and legislative side, we need to be partners. And I want to be able to understand the language around this, because another thing that I'm very confused about, you said, what's the difference between encampment resolution and a sweep? So like these terminologies are being switched from administration to administration, and we aren't having clarity, so we can't even defend a position that we have not been a part of.
Councilmember, I'll defer the question about encampment resolution versus a sweep to our colleagues from the Police Department and the Office of Public Safety. With respect to what we are doing, we committed in our last budget hearing to sitting with council and presenting the longer-term strategic plan for this, for our wellness centers, our wellness ecosystem, before the end of this budget process. So that commitment still stands. We're going to show you that. In the interim,
but
we are
just
simply,
right there, as part of that commitment, you commit to having a briefing to explain something to council that you already started and did, that makes us have to defend our position after the fact. So we can't even support what you're doing because we don't know. So the briefing should happen before the thing.
Councilmember, we are expanding things we are already doing. So I think it's more than a semantic difference. We are providing shelter beds. We are taking care of people literally around the clock, 24/7, 365. We have heard from this council. We've heard from community members. We've heard from advocates that we need more beds. So we are delivering more of the same types of beds that we already have. with expanded services, because
Just
again, we are hearing from everybody that that's needed. We have not done, I think, what
Just-
is it.
just
We
a
have
point
not
of-
opened a wellness center yet.
Just a point of information, just for clarity. It's where she's going at, Adam. When there was a decision made around some table somewhere to expand to the 90 beds, right? It probably would have been prudent to say, hey, members of council or district council member, this is what we're doing, and it may even be interpreted as a triage center. And as you're explaining, it's not a triage center because y'all still are working on that plan. But however, we know a sweep or encampment resolution is coming on Wednesday. At the same time, you're queuing up 90 additional beds at an actual facility with services that are going to be provided to those individuals that's going to be housed there. And some of those services includes opioid and addiction-related treatment, methadone and addiction-related treatment, fentanyl and addiction-related treatment. And so it gives the appearance, if you say it's not the case, we just talking about what appearance seems like, it's a backdoor way to do a triage center. Now, we're going to take your word at it, it's not a triage center. But I think what the council, what the minority leader is saying, in order for us to be partners with the administration, at least a conversation on the front end, rather you say it's a triage center or it's not, about the expansion of 90 beds, and everyone knows that this sweep or encampment resolution is coming, because those people got to go somewhere. Is the first 90 people going to Fairmount Avenue? Or are they going dispersed across the city of Philadelphia? But in this particular case, if I can generally say, I think that's where the minority leader is getting at in terms of us. And I think probably more than most on this council, she all for treatment and supporting those, and definitely not on the law enforcement side of helping individuals. But the bigger issue is, and again, as an independent legislative branch, we want to partner with the administration, but we're the ones that have to defend these decisions when we go out into our neighborhoods. We're on a hot seat when it comes to us going back to our constituents. So I'm not going to speak for her, but I do want to back up what she's saying from the perspective of we're going to be partners. And she said, I want to be helpful, but at least if we hit the information on the front end, we can be able to respond in an appropriate manner, irregardless of what the press is reporting. We will have the facts when our phone calls are ringing off the hook saying, this is the facts versus this is what, some media outlet is actually printing, which may not actually be accurate. And so that's where, but the chair rests his time back to the minority leader.
No, thank you so much, Council President. And that's exactly what the question was. And then you said there are others. So where are the other ones? If this is something that we're going to do, and I forgot the number, I think there's more than, if we do a encampment resolution, and we pick up more than 90 people, is there an overflow location? Where are people going? Suppose, most of them aren't going to decide to do treatment. If they decide not to go do treatment way, is it arrest? Then what's set up in the prison system for when they get there? So there's a continuum of care that happens with all of these services. And with council being left out of the process, it makes us have to continue to ask questions to make it seem like we're, butting heads, and we're just trying to find the information to determine exactly what's going to happen on the 8th. And, where are the other locations outside of Fairmount? Folks that decide not to go into treatment, and this is probably a police department question, if arrest is the alternative, or is the prison department set up for withdrawal systems to be in place there? So I understand that you're building a system as you know it, but as someone who's worked a little bit in this treatment area, my questions are coming from the ground, from folks that have been through the system, and I just want to know what's happening. Because when the phone calls come trickling down to our personal phone numbers, our city hall offices, we want to be able to have answers. And right now, we do not have answers, and May the 8th is what, 2 days from now? And I'm trying to get in front of this.
Councilmember, I think I've explained multiple times about the system of care that we are building. And I think I've also affirmed several times the encampment resolution is not, let me say again, is not a sweep. People are not being rounded up and deposited at any facilities. And I think Commissioner Bethel can reinforce that. What we have been doing, what we have done so far is exactly what we do with the entire range of city services that we deliver, which is we expand and contract existing services within existing resource to meet the needs of the day. So we have expanded existing services at an existing facility that does the same type of work, providing higher quality and more services for folks who are coming in voluntarily until we are able to build, and we are doing that at other sites that are already doing that kind of work around the city, and we are developing a comprehensive strategy approach and set of facilities that don't currently exist to be able to deliver this as catalyzed by the city and hopefully in concert with medical systems, payers, and a larger universe of providers. We've also sent you, Council President and Council members, I think you've received it by now, a memo that talks about what we are doing. You'll see all the things on that list. We are doing all those things while we are trying to address the current demands for low barrier shelter beds. I think a triage center, and that isn't necessarily a term, this gets much more technical in terms of the types of beds, and I know you're aware of that. We have not gone to the Commonwealth for licensing to do anything that would approach that at this point. So we are certainly looking at what it would take at Philly Home at Girard and other locations to do that. That decision is not made. And when we brief you before the end of the budget process on the $100 million, which of course is the beginning of the capital investment that we think will be required, and what we're doing in the rest of the system, we will make attempts to make all those things more clear. The link, the purported link between the encampment resolution and what's happening at Philly Home and Girard, there is not a link between those two things, except insofar as people who may already be encouraged to come in for whatever reason, to come in and get help, now have another place that they can do it with a higher quality care and expanded services in a facility that we've been operating for a decade for a population of unhoused individuals who are still there.
Is there a possibility that this $100 million that you're requesting will go to support the things that you're currently setting up now?
Councilmember, yeah, certainly. I think that capital investment, which we don't think would be sufficient to fill the gaps that are there in the medium to longer term care continuum, we think that's probably an initial investment, that there's a lot more need. And talking with all of the folks we've talked about, they acknowledge that there's been a market failure to provide that medium and long-term care. We talked about this at the last budget hearing. So we are going to have to catalyze that. And we are working with payers and others to try to find a way to sustain it. So yes, that $100 million is a down payment on what we think we need to provide, to build, start building and provide this care in a sustainable long-term way.
Adam, Mr. Thiel, just real quick question, along her line of questioning. Her direct line of questioning was, the $100 million that we're going to give you for triage centers, will any of that funding go toward this particular expansion of the 90 beds at the, what is it called, the Philadelphia Old Hospital Center on 21st and Girard Avenue? Will any of the triage money go toward this particular site?
Council President, no, that money does not exist right now. So that's capital dollars. We're not using capital dollars.
So when it does go through, so when it goes through, any event that we come to some level of agreement, none of the money in the future that are earmarked for triage centers will go to the site at 21st and Girard Avenue. Zilch, None.
We are evaluating multiple options for wellness centers.
You're going to say yes or no.
We think, I don't
And
think.
we're not being contentious. We're not doing a
Well, I don't
back and
have
forth.
an answer, Council President. I don't have an answer.
You
to
don't
that
have an
question
answer
right
for
now.
it.
I don't have an
It's the
answer right
record.
now. We're looking at multiple options. I don't think so, because I do think there are other places and other ways, and especially to the extent that that $100 million is probably not going to be enough to do what everybody thinks we need to do.
Okay. It seems like, just want to say for the record, it's a backdoor way to open up a triage center. Now, if you saying that's not the case, in order for us to be partners, I'm telling you how it comes across. That this is the backdoor way to start that process. And I think her line of questioning, again, was just a real simple yes or no. But when you leave that door open and say, well, we're evaluating, it allows you in the future to say, well, we never said no. We just want to still invest in rehabbing this particular site. Just wanted this just to be clear.
Council member, I can't necessarily
As Council President.
get in the Council President, get in the minds of everybody's perceptions. I don't think that Philly Home at Girard would be a good long-term investment for those capital dollars, because, as many of you know, it actually is a state-owned facility. We have a lease through 2026. So what we're really looking at is building out that existing bed capacity to deal with the current demand while we evaluate other facilities, understand the numbers, do our due diligence to spend that $100 million as an initial investment in other locations, on other more holistic and comprehensive wellness centers.
Okay, thank you very much. Minority Leader Brooks.
I'm good.
The chair recognizes Councilman Isaiah Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to ask one or two questions, then I want to put some questions on a record for Councilmember Young, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. I listened to Councilmember Brooks's line of questioning, and I think the thing that stood out to me is Councilmember Brooks's willingness to partner, right? Like, I think I heard Councilmember Brooks say multiple times she wants to partner with the managing director's office. I think I listened to the admin say multiple times they want to partner with council. In my last line of question, I talked about the importance of partnering. I'm wondering, from the managing director's office, what council members are you open to partnering with as it relates to brainstorming what happens with the triage centers?
Council member, I think we've demonstrated we are open to all council members' input and feedback.
So I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think that in this hearing, we've communicated some concerns, and I think the fact that people keep asking to partner shows that we don't feel like we are a partner. So I'm hoping that you could come back to us and let us know, what council members you guys are willing to partner with, because it's not that we don't want to see the administration be successful. I listened to you earlier. You said you've explained this multiple times. I'm a teacher myself, and for me, when I teach a class and I feel like I've explained something multiple times, and there's a lot of people in the class who still are not comprehending the message that I'm trying to communicate, at some point I have to look at my style of trying to instruct and say maybe I need to present it in a way that lands different with people. So I understand that you're frustrated because you feel like you've communicated this multiple times to us. I was a pretty good student. I don't understand. I'm not clear. I don't know what's going on. So I'm wondering maybe if there can be something that is done where the communication can be presented in a different way. I have a lot of staff in my office. We all learn different ways, and I don't have a staff member on my team who understands what's going on, and I've asked council members as well to help me understand what's going on, because I wouldn't be one of the people that I would recommend you partner with, because I think there are other offices that are more experienced and better off to be partners with the administration to kind of navigate this. So I'm going to ask one more time, what council members are you guys willing to, because you can't partner with all 17 of us, that's not realistic. Clearly, the initiative you have is looking to be in Councilmember Young's district, and I'll put his questions on the record in a little bit, but I mean, it's not realistic to partner with all 17 of us. So which ones would the managing director's office be willing to partner with, to work with, so we could try to get this done in a way where we're all comfortable supporting it?
Council member, first off, I'm not frustrated. Second off, as I think we've been clear, it is not ready. We are talking about doing something that does not exist at scale to address the policy needs that all of you have articulated over the past couple
So
of years.
if it's not ready, why not wait until next fiscal year to do it? If it's not ready, right?
Councilmember-
If this is May, we got to pass a budget in a
Councilmember,
month.
do we
Why
have
not
time
wait
to
until?
wait?
Why not wait until next year?
Councilmember, I assume that is an option that council has, would be to not fund the mayor's bold vision and proposal. We certainly don't see the conditions on the ground can wait. I'll reiterate, we are willing to partner with all of the council members, all 17, every office. We certainly will send you an invitation. We can have a council member charrette for you and your staffs to attend. We'd love to do that. We think that might be helpful in getting your own ideas for what should or should not be included in this continuum of care. So we'd be happy to do that.
I mean, however you guys want to handle it, clearly that's going to be the way you do. I mean, we're clearly telling you on the record that we want you to be successful. We want to partner with you. We want to try to figure it out. We're also saying on the record we don't understand what's going on. We are confused. You're telling us on the record that you have explained it multiple times. We're saying we don't comprehend. We're asking to partner with you. You're saying you want to partner with us, but you're showing us something totally different to what you're saying right now. So I'm just going to stop my line of questioning because I think I'm wasting council members' time on a Monday afternoon. Let me just put council members Young's questions on the record. Council member Young, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but his district is apparently ground zero for some of your actions. Council member Young said, what's the plan for the former Philadelphia nursing home site? What's the start date for those with drug addictions to begin receiving services? How many total beds will be at the site for the treatment of drug-addicted individuals, and how many outpatient clients are participating? How many outpatient clients are anticipated? And if you could answer those for Councilmember Young, who couldn't be here, that would be appreciated.
Councilmember, let me first say that that facility is not quote-unquote ground zero for anything. There are already approximately 200 people who are living there who receive services from the city.
So
and
I'm
have
sorry,
been
just
doing
for the
so
record,
some
when
time.
I say ground zero, I'm talking about ground zero as it relates to the miscommunication between the admin and city council for this particular project that we're discussing. So when I say ground zero, I'm talking more or less the lack of communication and transparency, because unfortunately a lot of us found out from this information from the press, not necessarily from any other communication. And I'm communicating on behalf of Councilmember Young, who had to make a public statement about the issue to let his constituents know that no communication had come to him and that he was made aware when the public was made aware. So if you want to clarify ground zero, that's what I mean when I say ground zero. I was trying to say it the nice way, right? Like this is the polite way of saying it. But ground zero means there was no communication from us, and this is where we are right now.
Councilmember, I agree. The article, initial article, was inaccurate, and appreciate the inquirer for doing some corrections. Again, I think there's a question about what it is. The wellness centers, the wellness system that we are creating does not exist yet and has not started to operate at scale and capacity. All we are doing now is expanding existing beds and existing services as we do during the winter, as we do at other times of year to address the needs on the ground. That's all we've done. The point at which this facility could become part of that broader care continuum and broader system is the point at which we would go to get additional beds licensed to provide the kinds of services that you were talking about, that Councilmember Young is talking about. We have not gone through that licensing process yet, and we don't anticipate doing that until we've been able to deliver the plan for the $100 million plus wellness centers and everything that feeds into that.
You on.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to note for the record that a lot of the questions that we had to try to move us forward as it relates to budget, unfortunately, still didn't get answered in today's callback, and I'm not quite sure how the managing director, based on his testimony today, feels like we have moved closer to passing a budget. If anything, Council President, from my personal opinion, I'm more confused than what I was when the day started as it relates to some of the clarity that I thought we would get to move us in a position to be able to pass a budget and support the admin's will as it relates to addressing some of the issues that we have in the city. My opinion, Council President, unfortunately, I did not see us take steps closer towards that today. And I'm hoping that we can get some more information between now and the time when we're supposed to pass the budget so we can support the requests of the admin. But the reality is, Council President, it's very difficult to support some of the requests that's been communicated to us because of the lack of answers that we're getting here today as it relates to our earlier conversation and the conversation we have right now. I'll rest the rest of my time for the rest of the day, and hopefully we can get some answers to Councilmember Young's questions in writing, because I don't think his questions were answered either. Thank you, Council President.
Managing Director Thiel, just have your team respond directly to those questions for Councilmember Young, who's not available with us today. That would be helpful for
Council
him.
President will do.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Phillips.
Thank you, Council President Johnson. I wanted to shift gears a little bit. The question that I wanted to focus in on is our speed calming measures in the city of Philadelphia. Right now, we have what I've been hearing, millions of dollars. I want to say the exact number. Last time I heard was $17 million worth of requests for speed calming measures, yet we do not have a budget that's reflecting that. Those numbers are requests. Residents are calling offices across the city, probably even at the at-large offices about this at this point. Can we get a direct communication that could be sent to every resident from your office about speed calming measures and the mere fact that we may or may not be able to get to all of them within this fiscal year for whatever reason, because of funding, because of maybe they're not, you know, we don't have the human power, whatever that may be, so it could be a direct response from you all so that we don't have to just keep telling residents, we're still waiting, we're still waiting, we're still waiting.
Councilmember, appreciate that. I think we don't necessarily have the capability to push that out to all the residents. We will put that on the website that has the request form to make sure that everybody understands the reality of those requests and the potential trajectory given the limited resources that we have. It's a priority. Again, fourth executive order of this administration was Vision Zero, reiterating Vision Zero. Clearly, streets are a priority with all of the dollars, an unprecedented amount of funding going into street repaving. That said, given the number of requests for traffic calming measures, we do not anticipate, for a host of reasons that you talked about, being able to fulfill all those, and we'll put that disclaimer, if you will, on that website where people make those requests.
Excellent. And also, can we get a letter from your office in writing as well that we could pass out to residents who may not be as internet friendly? That same.
Councilmember, certainly, absolutely.
Awesome. And then lastly, I just wanted to make sure that we're also on the same page with helping residents become more transparent with that request, with those speed calming requests. Right now, it's kind of like an open and closed ticket on 311. And then also I think on the website, it's an open and closed ticket when it comes to speed calming measures. Can we at least get to the point where it says study requested, study initiated, at the study initiated, what the results of that study, or even have the time frame on when they're supposed to get the study? That could be on there so folks know when the study is coming, and we hold our city accountable to at least getting the study done on time, so that we don't have to keep calling your office, you know, or anyone at all streets department to see, okay, when is the study being done? Is it being done? You know, it's always, they say 6 months, but can we get more precise, you know, when things are done?
Councilmember, we don't mind the calls. I think that's a great idea to be able to have a tool, a technology tool that makes that information readily available. So we will look at what it takes to build that and have it available on our websites.
Yeah, that would be incredibly important for this budget cycle, because that's what people are asking for, and our offices are inundated with that information. And you know, what I want to be able to say is that, you know, the administration has a clear plan to support that. I think that would be huge. All right. I want to be able to say the administration has a really clear plan to support that. And just so the record, in case my mic wasn't as turned up, I just asked for more transparency around the process when it comes to speed common measures in the city of Philadelphia, because a lot of residents are calling all of our council offices on that. All right. I think that's it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Rue Landau, and then
Thank
next,
you.
Minority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you so much. Just a quick, first of all, I'm sorry I had to miss some of the morning session, so got a quick catch up here. I want to start by asking a quick follow-up to the Girard Avenue facility. Can you give us a census of the facility performed for calendar year 2023 and 2024 to date?
Councilmember, we can get that back to you.
Okay.
The
thank
entire
you.
facility.
A census, so I get how many people were there, what were the services provided, all
Yes.
of 2023 and 2024 to date. And then I think I just have a statement. As somebody who, coming in, listening to all of this now, I used to oversee the Human Relations Commission. We resolved a lot of conflicts. I resolved a lot of conflicts with you. And what I'm hearing today is the antithesis of what we do to kind of bring like minds together. We're being asked to fund the mayor's bold vision, but given very little concrete information and for how it's going to go about, and not even any concrete information of how we're going to have future communications, like structural ones, so we can get to a point. And I would suggest that that is the point that we have to clear up here. We have to have a commitment to the process. We have to have a commitment to the projects. I don't know anybody's going to write a blank check of $100 million on a trust us when things are trickling out now that are highly concerning. And that, to me, I would certainly suggest that the administration in general, especially after some of the things we've heard from DBH, IDS, OHS, whatever, OSH, overly communicate, keep an open mind, accept opinions and thoughts and viewpoints of others, and just remember from the ground, the community through us, that whether we all like it or not, perception is reality. And if we do not do this process together, there's just no way we're coming across the finish line with a success. We've got to do it. We are here for you. We want to do it. Every time you say, trust us, we want to do it, but then something takes us a step backwards. So let's do what we can to start taking steps together. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, and then Councilmember Nick O'Rourke.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council President, and thank you again, Managing Director Teal. I just had one additional clarifying question, just for budgetary purposes for our clarification and understanding. The $1.4 million that we allocated in the last mid-year transfer in November of 2023, technically December of 2023, under the previous administration, was for maintenance at the Philadelphia nursing home. And then I guess we're seeing in the documents we received this morning, another $1.4 million towards maintenance at the Philadelphia nursing home, which would be a total of $2.8 million from obviously this fiscal year, and then the other half from the forthcoming fiscal year. But the $1.4 million was listed as a part of the, I guess, almost $16 million request that OHS is making for FY25. My only question with that is, where is it reflected in the budget detail? I asked that at the hearing on April 15th, and I just offer that question again for clarification and for a response. The $16 million is not listed anywhere in the proposed FY25 budget detail for OHS. In fact, their overall budget decreases by $2 million. And in addition to that, in the actual budget detail and testimony that was shared with members of council, the amount of individuals that they are able to service has also decreased. And so I ask the question only because we cannot see it in the detail. And I did follow up after the hearing on the 15th to try to resolve that question prior to today, but if you could just explain to us, where is the proposed 16 million reflected in the budget detail for FY25?
Councilmember, we'll have to go back and look. You're talking about in the OHS budget detail.
Well, only because wait, I'm sorry, repeat that?
The question you're asking about is in the OHS budget detail, the Office of Homeless Services budget detail, where is that dollar figure reflected?
Right, only
Okay.
because this is related to the Philadelphia nursing home. And so you have to recall that, well, you probably don't, because remember,
I
you
don't.
were under fire at that time. So let me make that clear. That was under the previous administration when you were in the fire department. But at that time, it was requested for maintenance for Philadelphia nursing home, okay? And that's all we knew. Of course, we knew nothing about this new wellness situation that will be happening there at that time. And so my question is, I just want to know, where can we look at it in the budget? We received the rationale paperwork this morning that listed out all the contracts, the amounts, the amount of beds, and I'm appreciative of receiving that information. However, that information, where do I find that in your budget detail?
Councilmember, we will get back to you with the answer for where you find that information in the OHS budget detail.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I only ask because we continue to receive requests to ensure that we are giving you all an additional $16 million, which for proposed FY25, it's stated that that is for ensuring that you can maintain current level of service. But really, the 1.4 of that 16 is regarding this new proposal, which is why, I had asked earlier. So I just want to know, can you just show us where it is? Because I'm afraid that the administration is requesting 16 million that's not reflected. And if we pass, that part of the budget as is, you're not receiving the 16 million, then people will blame it on council that we did not allocate the additional 16 million when really the administration never put it in. So,
Councilmember, we'll get back to you on where to find those dollars. I can tell you from my recent experience at the former Philadelphia nursing home, those dollars are sorely needed to serve the existing population, much less potentially expand services beyond that.
right, no, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to be clear, and this is not a us versus them conversation. This is a clarity conversation to ensure that what you all are requesting is adequately reflected so that we are able to get through this process appropriately. I would never want to be at a space and place where you all have to come back again in the fall and say we need to do another mid-year transfer specifically for that department because of a, let's just say, clerical error. Okay?
Councilmember, we'll make sure that in the budget there's not a clerical error. I do think, I will not say that we won't be asking for mid-year transfers for other things as we continue to build out this system going forward.
I understand, and I did hear you say that the $100 million was just a down payment. That would not be the totality of the anticipated costs for the efforts that you all are seeking to undertake. Is that correct?
Council Majority Leader, that is what we believe right now. Again, as we've stated, we are going to provide a plan. We are not asking anybody to trust us. Just give us $100 million and let us spend it. We committed during the last budget hearing to providing where those dollars will go before the end of this budget process, and we are going to absolutely do that. And we think, because remember, we are still putting this together.
Right.
We committed to it. We're not there yet. We are going to show you, I would love if $100 million would cover our needs, capital needs. I don't think it will. So we'll show you where that $100 million would go, and also talk to you about where we think there might be other opportunities for additional funding, federal, state, philanthropic, and certainly hope to get your ideas and enlist your support to fill in the rest of that capital stack. And please rest assured, we are listening. In fact, coming out of the last budget hearing, I think Councilmember Ahmad made some comments about pets. So we have that, we absolutely heard that. and have started to talk with ACCT about how, as part of this longer-term plan, we can address those needs. Now, as you can imagine, that process, getting to dollars and cents, our dedicated staff are literally working around the clock to get this put together in a form that we can get to council as we committed and hopefully get your support.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the clarification. I look forward to receiving the information regarding the $16 million. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Councilmember Nick O'Rourke.
Thank you, Council President, and good afternoon, Director Teal. I wanted to ask, given the next hearing, if I wanted to direct my questions to both yourself, Director Teal, as well as Director Geer, if he's willing to come forward as well. Is that appropriate, Council President? Thank you, sir. If what I'm about to ask and say sounds repetitive, I hope that it communicates more, not just a lack of paying attention, but more, or redundancy, but more so emphasis on some collective concern I think that's in this body. I want to start by acknowledging my colleagues who are working hard to find solutions to the many challenges facing Kensington. I know and have seen those very real challenges. I do believe that we need to work together for everyone in Kensington and people suffering in addiction across our city. That entire community deserves better. The entire community deserves more. But as we think about what solutions look like, if we aren't thoughtful with the rollout, if we ram everything through an expedited timeline that seems more geared at communicating urgency than effective execution, without discussion and caring, intentional, collaborative planning, I know, not I think, I'm not guessing, I think we all know that there will be more harm caused and unintended consequences. So we need to dig into the details with the administration. As you've heard several folks say, that's where the devil is. And I don't like the devil. A few weeks ago, I asked Director Adam Geer and Managing Director Teal about the warning and opportunity phase of the Kensington Community Revival. You've recalled that from the previous hearings. You both said that that you would reserve some of the response for the police department. So now that I have everyone here, I want to return that conversation. On April 16th, I asked about the rollout of the Kensington sweeps. And frankly, the lack of detail and transparency provided to City Council and the public around that effort is frustrating to say the least, frustratingly general, and I know that you have spoken about the term sweeps. I asked about when and how folks in Kensington would be warned, and at the time you all were not able to provide the details. But I have since learned, and as mentioned today on several occasions, that orange notice signs went up as early as April 8th telling people to clear out by May 8th, which is in 2 days, as we've already said. And I didn't learn that information from the Managing Director's office or from PPD. We learned that from community members on the ground who shared their fears and their concerns with our office and journalists reporting on the issue. Now, we're learning from an Inky article that this May 8th sweep is separate from the Kensington Community Revival Plan, which you've also articulated, Director Teal. Yet it seems to be aimed at the same goals, as we've kind of already outlined as well. Both to Teal and Geer, did you both know about the orange encampment resolution warning posters in Kensington during our April 16th budget hearing?
I'm sorry. First of all, good morning.
Good morning, brother.
Good morning, Councilmember. And good morning, Majority Leader.
Thank you.
Fellow council members. I just couldn't hear that because it got a little bit muffled at the end. Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yes, and actually, good afternoon, gentlemen. I think I probably got us on the wrong foot. It is afternoon. The question is, did you both know about the orange encampment resolution posters in Kensington during our April 16th budget hearing?
I know that we normally post those encampment resolution postings around. I cannot recall whether on that date I knew.
Okay.
We could probably go back in time and figure that out for you.
Did you happen to know, Director Teal, respectfully, sir?
Councilmember, I've been working on a lot of things, and I couldn't tell you if on those dates. I also, to be clear, I'm not sure that our procedure for posting encampment resolutions has council notification on it. So
no, I'm not even asking if we knew. I'm asking if you, brother, you gentlemen,
that's
knew. Yeah.
something. I mean, that's something we can go back and look at.
If not, it's possible that maybe you had a lot of things going on and maybe it did come across, but you didn't know. But if it wasn't communicated, this is concerning to me that PPD would have been putting out encampment resolution signs in Kensington and not communicating that clearly with you, Director Teal, or with you, Director Gear.
Oh, well, for clarification, yes. So our office, through our opioid response unit and our interagency people, folks who have been working on that encampment resolution posting, including law takes a look at that. They were absolutely in communication, and then I do know that by the time we were ready to go to print, so to speak, with those encampment resolutions, it had been vetted by our ORU, it had been vetted by our law department, it had been vetted by the PPD and ready for posting. So I just can't tell you exactly when the timing was, but there was absolutely communication throughout that entire process to make sure that it was legally correct, that it had the correct information, that we weren't sending the wrong messages to the community and to the folks who were going to be out there reading it, so we did take that.
But it never made it to you gentlemen as directors of both public safety as well as the managing director. It never made it to your desk to know that information in the midst of budget hearings where those sort of questions would be asked.
Councilmember, I think that I'm not necessarily understanding the question at the budget hearing that is germane to this. I will say that we have...
It's germane because I really, really wanted to know about the timing. When we asked about
No, the question that's the question I'm not sure that I recall from the budget hearings. This encampment resolution, this is a procedure that has been in place for some time. This is a matter of routine business. Now, we understand it may not feel routine to a lot of folks. So to the extent that we are involved, for instance, I don't necessarily get a personal phone call every time or notification every time the fire department responds to an incident. This would be similar in my mind. This is a matter of business and routine business, so I'm not sure. There are a lot of things that we do on a daily basis, and I am confident in our staff that they are working together with our colleagues to do this work of the city.
Thank you, Director. I asked the question because...
Councilmember O'Rourke,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
apologize for the interruption. I really do. For the record, I would just like to ask respectfully if you could respond to the questions as asked. Thank you.
I asked the question because this has been articulated by a number of our colleagues here. Partnership is what is expected to be effective in this as representatives of the body of the city. People ask us these questions, and if there's not communication that's even making it to you two as directors about the active ongoing things that are happening, that's concerning. The administration has talked a lot about building back trust with the public. How can you expect to build better relations if you kick things off with this administration by withholding information from city council partners? So that's why I'm trying to dig into when you knew what for things that are actively taking place. I don't want to park right there. I wanted to say that in addition to the orange notice signs, could you describe what type of word of mouth outreach and warning has been provided to folks in the area?
Absolutely. So first of all, I do have to go back because I've been involved in countless calls every week regarding the encampment resolution and the drafting of that encampment resolution up until that point. So I can probably go back to my calendar and sort of do the math, but at least 2 meetings per week and maybe 3 meetings per week going back in time on the encampment resolution. I do want to reemphasize that this is the encampment resolutions. The last one we did was in August. I think we've done 4, 5, 6 total as a city. We've done this before. It is a matter of routine course. I believe that the director of our opioid response unit, I don't know how many people on council she sent out our intention to post the encampment resolution.
Respectfully, I know, I just heard the bell ring.
But that
Director
email
Gear,
was sent out.
respectfully, sir, I really mean no disrespect to you or Director Teal. It has been made abundantly clear that the very specific questions that have been asked by colleagues are receiving extremely general answers, vague answers, and what I'm trying and attempting to do is to drain out the bits of detail that we can get, that I can get to certain folks. So some of the questions that I'm asking, I'd like actual specific answers, respectfully, specific answer to. Madam Chair, can I continue with a few of these questions?
I can absolutely get you specifics.
Pardon me?
I'd have to go through my calendar.
Great. Pardon me one moment. There's no one else in the queue, Councilmember O'Rourke, so please continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, I mean no harm. I just need to get this clear. Which groups specifically have been deployed to conduct outreach around the specific warning notices, and how many times have they visited the area?
So again, we can get you specifics. There's been heightened outreach from our Office of Homeless Services outreach team and our Department of Behavioral Health also outreach teams out on the street. I believe that they have had so far tremendous success. I believe they've had over 700 individual engagements. And by the way, each one of those engagements is just one more opportunity for us to reach out to touch folks, right, to offer services. We know it may not happen on the first, second, third time, so they're out there. And I commend them for doing that 700 engagements.
That's
I believe to date, since we've sort of picked this up in this 3,000, 3,100 block, they've had 17.
That's awesome. Thank you.
They've been able to connect people to 17 housing services.
If you can give me the names of those, and thank you for that work, that sounds awesome. If you can get us the names of those actual groups that are conducting the outreach and the specific warning notices and how many times they visit those areas, that would be super helpful. I want to make sure that we're very clear about this as well. Will arrests begin on May 8th? And you've already answered this question, but I want you on the record again. Will arrests begin on May 8th for folks who refuse treatment or other shelter options in Kensington?
Absolutely, unequivocally, no.
Great. Then what exactly will begin on May 8th, and when will phase 2 arrests begin? I know there were a couple times you said you've spoken to this forcefully quite a bit already on this question. What are the distinctions between encampment resolutions and sweeps? Are there actual, you mentioned August of last year. What was that specific example? Can you detail what the distinction is between those two things?
Sure. A sweep.
Thank you.
I don't even actually want to opine as to what a sweep is, because that has connotations. I don't want to go there. So an encampment resolution, let's focus there. An encampment resolution is the legal process by which, when there are, in particular, physical structures for public safety reasons or what have you that are specifically articulated, so we have to have facts that would allow us to have an encampment resolution. Most often than not, though, it's that there's tents, things obstructing the sidewalk so that individuals, let's say in wheelchairs or otherwise, could not egress safely on particular sidewalks. So this is the legal process that's been vetted, as I said, that we've done numerous times before, that allows the city to go in and essentially remove those physical structures and return those blocks to basically to what they look like, normal city blocks, right? During that period, this is not, and again, I want to reemphasize, this is nothing to do with arresting people. However, we have an awesome opportunity for our very talented folks in, again, OHS, DBH, IDS, to, in the weeks leading up to the resolution and the day of the resolution, to engage them, to try and get them on board with services, to try and connect them to services. And we found when we do these resolutions that we are quite successful in doing that. So they happen to be really great periods of time for the city and for the folks who are getting those opportunities.
So I hear you on that's what an actual encampment resolution is. What exactly, so that's what's beginning on May 8th, basically a legal procedure that will open up the pathway for you to remove physical camps itself, but not people itself. Got you.
Correct.
When will the phase 2, as I'm assuming, arrests, when will those begin? Since that's not what's happening on the 8th.
I would,
and then also what date is that specifically?
That's a question, I think, for the police department.
Okay. Okay. I'll hold this for the police department. Okay. Okay. You will still be here when the police department comes up. Is that correct?
I'm with the MDO, but I'm happy to stay. I'm with the MDO. That's how my testimonies come down. So if you have additional questions, I can answer them now, or I can stick around if you'd prefer.
I do have some more. Again, they're all detail-oriented questions, and if you're saying, I think they are more towards PPD after you all. Madam Chair, I'm going to go ahead and relax my time until they come back up. Director Geary, are you staying as where? Are you going to cut out after this?
No, sir. I think I'm
Okay, understood. Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Minority Whip O'Rourke. We will now proceed with the Philadelphia Police Department. Yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and Deputy Commissioners. We thank you so much for your patience this afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with whatever testimony you have.
So no testimony. We're here for as a second time around. So Commissioner Kevin Bethel, Philadelphia Police Commissioner.
John Stanford, First Deputy.
Deputy Commissioner Francis Healy.
Yes, well, thank you all very, very much for being here. Thank you for your work and your service. I truly enjoy working with each of you and just want to uplift the work that you all are doing. We will now proceed with Minority Leader Brooks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All righty, I'm kind of sorting through all my questions here to make sure that I'm, okay. I'm not really sure, I think this might have been for OHS, but like my question is like, how much money are we spending to, for encampment resolution? The question is coming because I'm not really sure. I'm dating back from when we had the encampment before. We spent money to move people around and put them in housing. Some folks we still haven't been able to track again, don't know where they are, and still end up back out on the street. So the question is, how much money are we spending for this encampment resolution? And are there specific services connected to folks that we are, as we move people along, what are the services that are guaranteed to prevent long-term homelessness or whatever the situations that we find in the street?
Yeah, as you know, some of that moves outside of my area, but I'll give you an overview. I mean, the encampment process has been happening since 2017. This encampment, from talking to my team, I believe maybe our 27th or 28th encampment measure that we have, this resolution. So as you heard earlier, this is not new. This is part of the cadence of the work. At this point, we have individuals who have totally taken this. So it's not only, we technically could be arresting them for obstructing the highway because the entire sidewalk is now lost on a few of those blocks, the 3,000 and 3,100 block of Kensington Avenue, where it's actually fully, you gotta go on the street to walk by. Through that process, that is not our process. We work with our Office of Homeless Services. We work with the behavioral health team. They will go in and do that process. Now, what happens? When we started this resolution, there was about 75, maybe 75, 80 individuals there. Once the notice went up, posted by us in the Philadelphia Police Department, in collaboration with the entire team, the posting went up. That number starts to drop. So right now we see from a total of maybe 75 to 80, about 50. I understand from historical knowledge from the team that works with me, by the time we execute on the location, there may be about 20 individuals left. That's when the partners will go in, have the conversation with those individuals. Many of them will get up and leave during that time period. The ones that stay, oftentimes are the ones who say, I will take services, and homeless services and the other team works with them. There are no arrests made in that process. We actually do not execute that strategy with them. We're there in the event that something happened to protect the team that's going in, but that is all done by the partners. That is not done by the police department, and that is not an execution of our phase 5 strategy that we outlined in our plan.
So since you put the signs have went up and you said folks have disseminated from the area, have you seen a buildup of folks in other parts of the area or the city? And what is the solution to provide long-term solutions towards homeless folks in the city? Do you know? I mean, I know this is not your expertise,
but I think,
you guys.
I've been at it for 38 years, and we have not resolved the homeless issue since I can remember, right? And as a cop here in Center City, I still see just as many homeless as I did 38 years ago. And so it's been an issue for us. We know that. We are preparing for some displacement, but we're also using that same strategy. For example, at the airport, we had a large buildup of individuals at the airport. My team worked with Tennicum because part of in Tennicum Township, we work with our Office of Homeless Services, our behavioral health team, and we were able to move those individuals. Some went into treatment, some just, we don't know where they went. They may have found other places to go. And so we'll start to work in that micro strategy. We can see today that the numbers were at one point 800 individuals in Kensington. We know during the summer we get a surge. So there is people are leaving and coming at a regular basis. Right now, by our head count, as we do similar to what they do in Center City, we believe we have about 565 individuals in that area. And we go from Jasper to E, I believe. Where's Pedro?
At Jasper to E, Tioga to our zone? Tioga to Indiana. So we take a larger swath, not just the center core. I know that was discussed earlier. It's much bigger than that. And we'll move our men and women to be able to address any displacement that we see. I know earlier he talked about 95. Under 95, I know Councilman Thomas talked about that. That is technically private property. PennDOT has elected not to go into a charging process, so my team does go down there and offer service to them. I think as we start to go through this model even greater and move more effectively, we'll be asking them to join into the strategy we're going to unfold.
Okay. You mentioned about arrests, so this is more. So I know there's a list of crimes that people could be arrested for related to narcotics, including sex work, quality of life, and other crimes. Can you outline like all the specific crimes that people will be arrested for during this?
So I think we're not, I hear sometimes the men and women have been down there for a decade. I think the clearing of Amtrak, I think, caught in like 2017. Right, and so they've been down here. Our KP team, our Kinston team has been down there. Police officers have been down there for quite some time. Many of the cases that we've been making arrests of going to our police-aided diversion model, where folks are not arrested, and there was hopes that they would get them into services and be able to provide those. So we're not going down there with a arrest posture. What we're going down there to do is stop the open sales of drugs, and so we're going. So it'll be an outside kind of in strategy. Going in there to make sure that individuals are not openly using needles in the public sphere, and all of those other quality of life issues that we would have addressed anywhere in the city of Philadelphia where we stopped doing. And now, will the arrests come from that? Yes, but my feeling is as we start to change the norms down there, that what has been allowed before but not allowed anymore, that we will see that they will adjust. Oh, hey, guess what? You cannot sit out here in the corner and shoot up openly. Oh, you can't do these things in here because we're going to have workforces. So that will be the downstream impact of our work will be, okay, if you're going not to follow the law, then we're going to take in a lawful activity and we are going to move forward with arrest. But it's not going down there with a number count. We don't think we're going to arrest ourselves out of this problem. We're not going into it with the model believing all the rest. We hope that some of those arrests will move individuals into treatment and they will take that as an opportunity. But we also, locking someone up for a needle of fentanyl and Xanax, as Alexander is not going to send them up to the road, right? We know that, and so we're hoping through this balanced approach, but we're being very fluid in our strategy. This has not been done. We've talked to our colleagues in San Francisco and our colleagues in Boston. This has been very different and challenging dynamics for both of those entities, and these are kind of the three open-air drug markets in the nation. We happen to have the third one, but I think we were the top one. It's going to be significantly challenged, and I want this body to know, we know that going in. We're being very fluid in our strategy, being very humble in our strategy, because we don't have all the answers, and some of it won't know until we get in there and activate. Because if I look back in 2017 when they cleared out the Amtrak, there was only about 75 to 100 people at that time that they felt was down in the tracks, and they were going to get them services. I don't know how it went from 150 to now 550. Because at that time, the conversation was we're going to get bedding and treatment and all those things were going to line. And 7 years ago, I used to work that area before some of you in that room were born in here. 38 years ago in 1986 and then 1991 when I worked in the area, individuals lived down in that tracks. So this is how long it's been going. It's going to take some time to unravel it.
And I totally agree. This has been a long issue that we haven't resolved, and now we're coming up with solutions to try to make it better. My concern is as we start the resolution process and we're moving folks throughout the city, is there a plan to make sure that folks are receiving the adequate services, whether it's housing, whatever support services that they need, wherever they may settle, because some of these folks are actually homeless. So just moving them from one corner to another does not resolve the issue of homelessness. And I know this is not your thing, but my concern is and I know it's happening as we go, but as they shift into other communities and neighborhoods, what are we doing to prevent the duplication of what we already allowed to happen in other parts of the city?
Yeah, here's what I will guarantee you, madam. That's not happening. We cannot allow Kensington to be replicated anywhere in the city again, ever, right? That should be our first course of business. And so we're going to be very proactive. And as we went down into the airport, 30th Street, we now then get these flare-ups. Even in Center City here, where we start to see some shifting, everyone is concerned, and we have those same concerns. We think we build enough of a model that we have enough resources to be able to address those as we go along. But if not, we will be working with our partners, homeless services and others, to help us through this process. But we anticipate there's a large percentage down there are not even from the city, right? And we know that just by when we're bringing them through our PAD program. And so we have already talked to some of our counties who've already reached out to us and said, listen, if you encounter somebody from our county, we have the system now set up to bring them to us, and we're going to be able to provide service for them. Well, that's a home run for us, because we know we're getting some of the individuals that are coming from other counties. And for them to reach out to us, clearly they know that they have individuals. These are people's children and families and loved ones as well. And so we're going to try to use as much of the system we can. But I think, Madam, the system has to activate now. I think it's been sitting, and I think part of what we're doing now, because we're going to go in there with our work, is really going to first time really push the system to see where it could go. Because I may get in trouble by making a statement, but the harm reduction model I thought was built around this. When I took over, I thought we were just going to turn the triangle upside down and be able to sit down and realize I thought all these beds were there. Right? I thought the harm reduction model was built around that. And just also be mindful, we're not going into locking up 565 people, because we know the system cannot take that. We're going to be very deliberate and this is going to be a long game. So 565 people may go into treatment over 2 years. It's not going to be, hey, this week we're going to grab 500 people and put them into a bedding system that only has 90. We hear our colleagues say they have 90 beds. And so part of it will be, some people are not going to go right away. And so it'll be this methodical, day-to-day, week-over-week, probably month-over-month process to start to be able to, some people may not go into treatment 5 months from now. And so if you start to rotating that system, I think we should have enough beds to be able to do what we need to do. But I don't think we're going to know all the answers, ma'am, until we get in there and start to do the work.
And I'm going to say this again for the record. I would like to be a partner and move it through, but it's hard to support what you don't understand. So I appreciate you clarifying the goal and the procedure. This is, if we want to bring real change to our city, all city agencies need to be working together, and council shouldn't be us versus them. It should be all of us, because the phone calls come to our offices, and if we can't answer the questions effectively as to what exactly is happening, we're not able to be good partners. So the questions are really grounded around, as you're building this, it would be helpful if we just have some idea of what's going to happen. And that's why the arrest records and all of these things are important for us to know, so we can support, or if it's something we can't support, just to call and be like, how was this done, and how can we partner to prevent this from happening again? And this is kind of why, we're questioning. It's not that we're immediately accusing wrongdoing. We're trying to make sure that, we're all working towards the same outcomes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, man. And we have, and again, I'm more than to work with the president. We work with Councilman Driscoll, Councilman Lozada, Councilman Squealer, Councilman Harity, to make sure they were informed. We briefed them on our plan before we executed. They've been coming to our meetings to make sure, but we are more than open to open that conversation, to be able to brief other members. But we thought at the time where we even, Pedro met with even our state representatives to make sure they were aware. So clearly we see a gap, and we'll be more than willing to be able to brief the councilman at large, councilwoman at large, because of the questions you're getting about where we're going and what the next steps are. Absolutely more than welcome to do that.
So just to be specific about what I'm asking. So our office has heard from people, are seeing people being displaced from Kensington and Germantown and Manayunk.
Okay.
Harm reduction people in Camden are all saying that, people are coming there. Not that it's a problem, but we can't either deny or that is really happening. So the question is like, have you noticed, and I guess you said so when you said your counterparts in Montgomery County know that we're sending folks back to them and they want to be in support. But how can we be helpful in like helping you guys manage some of this? Because the phone calls are coming to our office, and our job is to help people get services and get connected. How can we help with that?
I think what I'll do, I'll talk to Commissioner Rosario, who's leading that effort down there, to figure out how we can create that communication link, because those things that we don't know, right? We won't know unless it probably coming from your constituents that we're seeing something in Germantown or other areas, so we can monitor that, and we can actually probably look through our records and see, because we may have stopped that individual. So using our records, we'll be able to determine whether we're seeing that displacement. I work with Kevin Thomas from our team. We have an internal dashboard that we're using to be able to track, and we can add another layer to that. But I don't want to give you a specific answer, but I understand the gap you're describing now, and I think we can work through, so you would have a pipeline to Commissioner Rosario's office to say, Commissioner, we're seeing something here that we hadn't seen before, and then we can go out there and address it, because we do want to get it early, as soon as possible, and your folks are on the ground, you're on the ground, you'll know much quicker than we will, and so we would definitely embrace that level of communication so we can respond accordingly.
And my last question for now is, will body cams be worn as people, are you guys doing the encampment resolution to make sure that, the integrity of all of this is what we expect it to be?
Yes.
And I know there was a shortage of body cams going on, so that's kind of why. Is this an operation that will include body cams?
Yeah, so part of all of our districts now have a body-worn camera, so we're moved into our special units, so we're good with that. Part of the work that we worked out with the district attorney's office, we are going to be using body cameras when we operate in there. The homeless services will go in, and if we're not activated, we won't be in there with our cameras. At that point, we will be off the scene. We will not be involved in taking down the encampments. That will be done by our homeless services. That's their operation. But if we are all to come in, or anything we're going to do operationally in there, we won't be wearing our cameras. That's agreement that we made with the district attorney as well, that when we're operating in that space, cameras will be fully on for mirror encounters, any encounter we're having in there, to make sure we're properly capturing what's going on, and just gives it the checks and balances as we go through this process.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. And last question, Councilmember Nick O'Rourke, Minority Whip.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon.
How are you, sir?
Commissioner Bethel and gentlemen. Thank you for being here, and I wanted to continue with the line of question that I had earlier and try to weave this together.
And I got my attorney with me too, so if he turns over, I can't answer that question on the advice of my attorney.
Copy.
All right.
You have already kind of clarified that the intent is not to jam 500 people in tomorrow. So that's encouraging. If the way that I formed these questions or the way that I phrased these questions sounds like I didn't hear that, just know that I did. But I'm trying to get to something else here. On what day specifically do you have in mind, if there isn't one, you can also just say that, will arrests that I feel like have already been communicated from the administration as it relates to Kensington, if necessary, will happen? What day will that begin? We're calling it in our notes Phase 2 of the Kensington Community Development.
So my expectation, and for operational purpose, I won't give you specific dates, but we can put you in a kind of in a timeline.
That's helpful.
Clearly, the first part of the process, once with the encampment process is completed, and that resolution is done, we anticipate shortly thereafter, which is ongoing now to continue, is to start to give notice to the community that we're going to move into Phase 2.
Okay.
And so we shortly thereafter, this plan, once the encampment is completed, then we will start to do our work that we outlined in our 100-day plan, moving into our Phase 1 approach. Now, I would say to you, Phase 1 will never stop.
Copy. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
Do you have Commissioner, do you have a general, a rough idea about when we shift into Phase 2 as we continue on with Phase 1?
I think we will give Phase 2, not months.
9? 9 months? You said 9 months?
Not months. Not months.
Not months.
Not months, but weeks.
Weeks, okay,
Weeks,
gotcha.
you know, I mean, through that process, we will go through and give, because I mean, at that point, we will be very much working with the organizations down in Kensington to give everyone an opportunity, and then very shortly thereafter, we will start to move in phase 2, and that can fluctuate depending on if we're in phase 1 and we're getting a great response, right? If the fact that folks are realizing similar to what we do with our encampment, then we will continue to stay in that space.
Copy.
It will be, I mean, and because the ultimate goal is to get as many people to leave there willingly.
Yeah.
And so if we're seeing great, activity, and we're seeing folks who had historically said, "I'm not going," and I think that's a win for us.
Okay.
And we're going to continue to push behind that.
Thank you, sir. So, in a matter of weeks, very roughly, but in a matter of weeks, arrests will begin.
There's no, I mean, I hear what the rest, and I'll repeat what I said before. I mean, the officer has to have probable cause, reasonable suspicion to make an arrest. There is no activation of Kevin Bethel or Commissioner Bethel or anybody on my team sending anyone in there with the expectation to make arrests. I mean, now with the added individuals who are going to go down, are they likely to see more?
Yeah.
But here's my thing. There are drug sellers down there that are going to be addressed. We're doing that now, right? And so part of our strategy will be a comprehensive strategy. It will not just be focusing on those users.
I want to shift us back to a certain lane, though, Commissioner. At some point, arrests may have to happen.
Arrests are happening down there now.
Right, okay. So that's kind of what we're saying. So whenever that is, it sounds like it'll be not months, but weeks. Council President, I'm sorry, you had your hand up, sir.
Just a point of information, I just want clarity on regarding the drug dealing part, right? Which I'm all for. Are we stepping up our efforts to have part of your budget? Are you expanding undercover operations? Is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms a part of this? Is DEA a part of this? I'm not even really getting at the people who need treatment. I'm talking about the guys that Jim Harrier talks about that sell blocks at a time, right? And this along the lines of the arrest conversation. Just want to get an idea of that part of the operation in terms of how you move forward.
So we've been operating in there already, right? We started operating not shortly after I arrived, not waiting for any dates, because selling of drugs in that community has always been. It is one of the highest drug markets in the East Coast, right? Coming off of the 95 corridor, where it has sit for years. I worked in narcotics for 15 years and was down there for quite some time. So we met with myself, Commissioner Stanford, and others on my team, met with our DEA partners, our attorney generals, FBI, every, as they call them, the Fed head group you can imagine, to be able to say that we need you to be focusing on this area, on this level of drug activity in this pocket. And so we've been down there doing a lot of work already because it was necessary as we move forward. And so as we move into the arrest posture, Councilman, I mean, we understand that, you know, we're going to increase our deployment down there. Part of it is going to be a very visible display of something the community has not seen in quite some time. It is going to be an effort and folks are going to make some decisions. We anticipate that some are going to say, this ain't the place to be anymore. We anticipate that many of them are going to retreat and leave and be very legal about what they do, which means they're going to go into some very furtive processes to do that. We are not leading, nor are we training our folks to go down there and say arrest or to do that. I mean, but we do believe that even in those situations where we make an arrest, we're going to continually offering people opportunity to go to services. We're going to continually make that part of our structure. I mean, I've never shared my story, but my brother, who was addicted to crack, only went to services after the judge told him, you'll go. He would eventually lose his life after he got through his recovery because he lost his ailment.
I'm sorry to hear that, sir.
No, I appreciate it, but part of that is understanding that, you know, all of this will work together. And I understand there's many people who are walking in the process saying you arresting is not going to get people into treatment. And we know that. We don't know that as well. We understand that's not going to be our model, that 100 people we get, some of it's going to take some significant impact to get that to happen.
Council President, were you Did you get what you needed? So I wasn't really going down that road.
Okay. I'm trying to get
At some point, right, arrests will be taking place. We are arresting, that will happen as a part of the process. The issue is with, many folks with acute physical and behavioral health conditions will likely be caught up in that. They'll be passed off to, at this point, Philadelphia prisons. This is where I'm going. As someone who cut their teeth in organizing around mass incarceration and decarceration, and who has myself personal experience with family being deeply impacted by our country's carceral system, this is concerning to me, especially given the state of the Philadelphia prison facilities today. Let me reread a quote I read a few weeks back from the ongoing federal monitor report detailing our prison's conditions and the imperative for rapid decarceration. And I quote, "PDP's only conceivable pathways to compliance remain some combination of population reduction and increased staffing. The city would initiate a coordinated effort among local justice partners to pursue all opportunities for population reduction. Without a population reduction, PDP's conditions will descend further into constitutional inadequacy, and health and safety will continue to decline. Staff will remain in acute fear, and the indignity of their working conditions will remain a cultural bar to humane treatment of the 4,700 people confined in PDP facilities," end quote. Every day, these facilities are risking the health and safety and violating the constitutional rights of nearly 5,000 people inside them now. Moreover, almost 90% of these people are being held without yet standing trial. Can any of us here walk us through what phase 2 of the Kensington Community Revival Plan means for Philadelphia prisons and the thousands of people that are inside them already?
I can't speak to what the impact is going to be. Many of these individuals are going to get locked up for low-level offenses. But I was here in 2013 to 2009 where we worked on the MacArthur Project. At that time, the conversation then was reduce the number of folks going into incarceration. Born from that was ultimately the PAD program, where we put thousands of individuals through the process of diverting them with no consequences, no anything to it. It was hopefully that they take services, maybe they will take services, and oftentimes not taking services. And so at some point, how far, I don't know how far it will go. We know that many of the offenses that we have the accelerated misdemeanor program that we believe is going to be a great tool where they will not go further deeper into the system. We know that our work will be trying to, when an officer was given a choice to put somebody in, lock them up, or if they want to go to treatment, that we would, in lieu of locking them up, give them the treatment. We're going to do our best. Yeah. But what we're not going to do is continue to allow this behavior to just go unabated in a neighborhood that is really suffocating.
Heard.
As you know that.
And Commissioner, we have to, I hear that, and that all deeply resonates. The thing I want to get out, and I'll just share here, the federal monitor, from that quote that I just read, noted that we are performing very poorly when it comes to behavioral health, even up on State Road. In December, a few factoids for the record, only 58% of healthcare referrals were made in their required timeframes on State Road. The rate of urgent referrals completed in 24 hours was 23% on State Road. The number of routine referrals completed in 5 days was under half, at 49%. 2 people died of an overdose on State Road last year, and 4 people had fatal overdoses in 2022 on State Road. Critically, the risk of overdose is 10 times higher for people recently returning from prison. These are terrifying signs when you're thinking about, again, when we're still in this space of a plan being rolled out to enact this that's not really clear. That's concerning for me because when we enact these things, these folks have to go somewhere, and the places that they're going themselves are not, and you know this, I'm telling you things you already know, but these things are not prepared to receive them. So I want to get real clear on the answers, which is why I've been trying to be so pointed with my asking. How do you expect Philadelphia prisons to be prepared for a wave of new arrests filled with unique physical and behavioral challenges?
How I expect the prisons? I mean, the prisons will
listen. And really, this is the reason why we want the other folks to be
listen,
here.
but I mean, listen, we'll see when we get through this process as to how many, we're making projections that we don't even see yet. We're making these assumptions that we don't see yet. The system, as I shared earlier, we are going to have to be very nimble and very fluid in our process. If we see, it's virtually impossible that I was sitting here as a commissioner working under this mayor and this administration would force 1,000 people up to the prison know that they can't take it. At that point, then we have to make a different decision. Sure. This is not working, right? Because it makes no one, it benefits no one for me to sit there and try to shove things into a system that's not prepared to accept that. And so I think there's this incremental process. Mm-hmm. If we say, hey, I locked up 20 and the prison's starting to see some kind of shift, and they're starting to say, well, we can't handle that, then we have to come and communicate as a part of the team, working under the managing director and working with Adam Teal to be able to say, all right, Kev, we have to make an adjustment now. Mm-hmm. We should not, I'm not going to sit in this process and allow us to shove anything anywhere that's not going to be effective and not going to get our end game should be able to neutralize and get that community back to where their baseline, and then really be able to work across the city to be able to do those things that we need to do effectively around the homeless issue. But I just want to make sure it's clear, Councilman, we're locking people up down there every day. It is one of my most violent pockets in the city of Philadelphia as well. And so we're down there making arrests on a regular basis for a whole plethora of things that are going on. Mm-hmm. And so will we have an increase potentially of arrests? There's no question that'll happen. Some people are going to be resistant to saying, hey, if the cops have walked by you, shooting up needles, selling drugs, and doing in front of you, and then all of a sudden a shift change, there is going to be some people say, I don't believe that. The cop usually drives by. He doesn't say, he or she doesn't do anything. That model is changing, right? And I think quickly we may find a quick surge of activity, and then there's going to be a renorming. I got you. And so, but we're going to be very, very methodical, very deliberate. Mm-hmm. We're not rushing. We're going to really take our time, let the system catch up to us, because as you heard the managing director talk about the best that he has in trying to accomplish, it's going to take 7 years we've been here. Sure. I've been in this seat for 127 days, right? It's going
and you also are not the head of the prisons department. You are the police commissioner, and you're just one part of this puzzle. So I just want to communicate that time is out?
Time, because it's this notion around here that everybody get grace for 100 days.
Oh, no, listen, I ain't asking for no grace.
Wait, time.
I just gave you a date.
I
just got to compartmentalize it. I'm just trying to compare 7 to 127.
Remember Rourke?
So there we go. As I know that you're not head of prisons, you're the head of the police. You're a piece of the puzzle here, but I am trying to communicate that I take very seriously the monitor's imperative that the city should initiate, and I quote, a coordinated effort among local justice partners to pursue all opportunities for population reduction. So, MDO's not here anymore, I don't think, but are MDO and the PPD a part of a coordinated effort to reduce the prison population?
We have been a party to the MacArthur Project, which led to the police-aided dispatch. I think that's been a core element that we played, that role that we played in that reduction. I don't know what the prison numbers were prior, but from what you just said, 4,000 are a lot lower than I recall. And so I would have the prisons would have to tell you, but I believe, Councilman, that number has dropped significantly since my time when I left in 2013 and returning as a result of those efforts that were put forth.
And even still, the conditions in the prisons are what they are today, which is the glaring concern for me. I want to make sure that we're all aware of the stakes here. The federal monitor has made it clear that the city's efforts to reach compliance do not reflect the urgency and enormity, that's a quote, of its problem and the life-threatening conditions that it breeds, right, in Philadelphia prisons. In fact, the monitor notes that Philly has pursued a course of half measures steeped in this is a quote, pursued a course of half measures steeped in bureaucratic and political rigidity with devastating consequences for incarcerated people and PDP staff. Frankly, the fact that the Kensington Community Revival Plan doesn't seem to contend with the state of Philadelphia prisons itself is a bit damning in and of itself. The words jail and prison, as we understand it, don't even appear in the 100-day report that introduced that plan publicly. Meanwhile, we're pushing forward with actions that will start maybe in a few weeks that will force a choice between underdeveloped treatment conditions or incarceration in dangerous, Constitution-violating facilities. That's a concern, and I know you're not the head of the prisons, but just in conclusion, can you just speak to that particular framework I just set up, that this is what they're going to be faced with? Any comments on that?
I have learned in my time to understand the elements that you outlined. I mean, my work around juvenile justice would focus on trying to keep young, particularly boys of color, out of the system because we were putting so many in. So I understand the dynamics you have, but I also understand that those things that you described should not trump or overwhelm a community that has suffered for the last 7 years with the activity that they've had to endure. And so part of my work is to go in there and to change that dynamic for them. I don't go down there with, my spear is not let with arrest handcuffs. It is the same model that KP has been working, the Kensington team has been down there for a while, working in partnership to be able to make a difference. But I also would say that, that sometimes the outcomes are not perfect.
Sure.
And we understand that, but listen, the system has to change, right? But today, I run the police department. What we do is lock people up. That's part of the work that we do. Enforcement I am the other part of prevention, intervention, and enforcement. Now, we bleed into it, and we work in prevention space, we work in intervention space, but at the end of the day, my job is to arrest people as well. We see thousands and thousands of offenses every day across the city, and we do not arrest. So we are probably the biggest diverters you can ever imagine, right? We see thousands of motor vehicle violations that we do not take action on.
Yes, sir.
And so there's a small portion of individuals that unfortunately will do things that we're going to arrest, and we're going to take that action. And then the system has to, whatever adjustments they have been making, let's be honest here. We've been locking up a lot of folks, and they've been going out the back door. And so I mean, at the end of the day, the system has been doing a lot of things that are outside my purview, but we're going to continue to lean forward in our work because that's what we do.
So in conclusion, and thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here and answering some of these questions. I just want to say I'm a member at large. And so I know that you all represent different departments and offices and things like that within the administration. And so different pieces of the puzzle to addressing the larger Kensington question that everybody is concerned about and everybody wants to have, quote, something done about. As an at-large rep, it appears to me that it's important to make sure that while there's a lot of, those who are suffering from the disease of addiction versus business owners, or those who are suffering from opioid versus residential family members, or whether it's police and prisons, whatever the pieces are, that we are not just saying, well, it's so complicated and we're still working on, we're building the plan as we're going, that it becomes acceptable just to say, well, we're going to make some mistakes, but the mistakes that we're talking about are people's lives. So it's important for me to be intentional and clear about asking the actual questions that can result in the loss of life. Not just a bad press story, not just a bad day in the building, but people will die. And I use that word not flippantly, but to drive the point home. So as other folks, my colleagues have already communicated a number of times today, nothing really that we're doing here is to be agitational for the sake of agitation, but it is to ask questions to get clear on details for a very vague plan that requires a lot of pieces that has not been actively communicated with this body on a number of days so we can save people's lives. And so that is the thrust of that. I thank you for your work and answering my questions and bearing with me today.
Listen, I appreciate you. I mean, that is part of the work. We have to have a balanced conversation in all of this. I respect everything you have to say, Councilman. We take that to heart. I mean, as part of we go through our process, I respect everything you just said. It does not bother me at all because that's a conversation we have to have, a complete conversation about all of it. If we didn't, we're not doing our job.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
That's it.
So we all doing a good Lord's work or good work of helping the people move the city of Philadelphia forward. Here's what I would like to say. Just as we move forward, you and your team, I know you're the chief law enforcement official in the city of Philadelphia. And so a lot of this weight is on your shoulders, but we're taking a comprehensive approach. Just the lines of communication, that's all. However you put that together, whatever that looks like. I know you are working with the Kensington Caucus, but there's other members of council who do not even represent Kensington, but just are still interested in what takes place in Kensington. I have a mini Kensington at Broad and Snyder in my district, deep South Philadelphia, that we're addressing, and we're making sure that outside that pharmacy down there where you used to get on the bus to go to Atlantic City, that we clean up that encampment area. And so I think the body as a whole is just interested. And most importantly, it's about just communication. So we're all on the same page. And then when we have to go back out into the communities, because I know the administration has a job to do, but also as district and at-large members, we're out there. We're getting the phone calls. We're getting the people coming to our offices. And so whatever we can do just to increase that line of communication with members so we can all be on the same page, I think that would be great. And I work with you. So I've been in the trenches with you way before I'm an elected official. I know where your heart is. I mean, if you was just lock them up, let's just get them off the street, in South Philadelphia, we'd approach things totally different. You're a person who actually adopted several young men in the neighborhood, right? So they wouldn't be shooting between Tasker and Wilson Park. You didn't have to do that because you have your own family. So I definitely recognize and I believe that your heart is in the right place, right? But this is a delicate issue for all of us, and so it's going to take all of us working together to get this right. And so I think what you hear from my team members is just, you know, we're big on details, but most importantly, lines of communication, so we're all on the same page moving forward. So beyond the Kensington caucus, maybe figure out how other people, because to be quite frank, even though we have the Kensington caucus, there are other people that's just as passionate and interested about this issue. They're just not a part of the Kensington caucus, but they're still, as a body, want to be supportive. And so whatever we can do just to increase those lines of communications. I just had one question. Did Adam Garrett leave? I think he might have did reach out.
He did.
Okay, just have some questions for the administration. I'll follow up with them regarding reentry and what's the reentry plan and so forth. But to you and your team, thank you for taking time out of your schedule, coming back during the callback. And you my guys, so that's always going to be what it is. So I wish you good luck and Godspeed in terms of how you address this issue, and most importantly, with some protection and wisdom in terms of the team that you got around you as we do this right, where we don't have any big hiccups and we like on national television because of how things are rolled out and done. And so, but I know with your leadership, we'll be moving in the right direction. Just wanted to state that for the record.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. Yep. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee for this witness? Hearing none. Is anyone else here to present? Hearing none, there will be no other witnesses here to testify and no further questions or comments from members of the committee. The public hearing on the bills and resolutions before the committee today will stand in recess until the call of the chair. This concludes the business of the Committee of the Whole. Thank you all very much for your attendance.